Assalamu alaikum students. I hope you're doing well and completing your previous assignments. Today we are going to do a new topic that is from your textbook of English and it's about a poem that is unit 3. The name of the poem is On the Ocean. The objectives of this lesson today is we're going to analyze the poem for the main idea. We're going to discuss about and list down the vocabulary. We're going to paraphrase the stanzas and there are some end topic questions for you to answer. Now, the resources that we're going to use is the textbook page number 14. On textbook page number 14, you can easily find the poem On the Ocean, and there is a vocabulary list. Now, let's see the background of the poet who has written it, as well as the poem itself. So the poet who wrote down this poem is Samuel Taylor Coleridge, and he was born in October 21st, 1772, in Devon, England. He was a friend of the famous poet William Wordsworth, and he was also a founder of English Romantic movements. His best work are the Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Kubla Khan, and later on he got sick because of opium and he died in 1834. Now, if we look into the background of the Rime of the Mariner, the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, it was written by Samuel Taylor Coleridge and it was first published in 1798 and it's a lyrical ballet and one of the most famous poems in the English language. So the rhyming words, they are a rhyming words at the end of that the sentence at the end of every stanza, at the sentence of every stanza, there is a rhyming word. As is the ribble sea sand. Now, Rime of Ancient Mariner tells of a misfortune of a seaman who shoots an albatross, which spells disaster for his ship and fellow sailor. Now, the story is that there was a sailor, he was a mariner, and he accidentally shot a seabird known as albatross. And while the albatross he died, he um cursed the whole ship along with the fellow sailors. So, what was the curse? We are going to read about it in that poem. Now, let me tell you something about the Rime of the Mariner. The Rime of the Mariner is it's a series of the poems written by Coleridge, and it consists of 4 to 5 parts. So, those three stanzas that we are going to discuss today are actually the extract of part two. So, there are almost 10 to 12 stanzas in part two, and this is stanza number 7, 8, and 9, which we are going to do. Now, the story behind the poem is that there were three guys are on the way to a wedding celebration when an old sailor, the mariner, stops one of them at the door, and we're going to call that one as a wedding guest because throughout the rhyme of the mariner, if you will love to read the whole poem poetry, you will come to know that the wedding that one of the listener was addressed as the wedding guest. So the mariner, the old sailor, by using his hypnotic eyes, he got the attention of the wedding guest and he starts telling a story about a disastrous journey he took. So, this is all about the memory, the flashback of the mariner, and he's going to discuss what happened with him when he shot Albatross. Now, in the introduction, I would like to tell you, I want you to look at your book because in your book, you'll come to know that this poem that we're going to do today consists of 3 stanzas. And this language, this poem, is the most influential poem of the English language. The poem is about an old sailor, which I've already discussed, who narrates his long story about a voyage in which his entire crew was killed. So the journey on a sea is known as a voyage. And it turned out that he was the only survivor. In the given stanza, the narrator explains the hardships and the dangers that they encountered during sea voyage. So, what happened with them, how they handled the curse. Uh, in this poem, we're going to discuss all that, especially those 3 stanzas. Now, if we look at the vocabulary list, you'll come to know that in stanza number 1, there is the word copper sky, and the meaning of the copper sky is the sky was like a sheet of copper, because they here they have matched it with the color of the copper. Then comes the bloody. Now here the bloody means like blood in color. Then there is a phrase that is stuck nor breathe nor motion. It means that it indicates that everything was motionless, even the ocean. Then comes as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Now it means that as motionless and still as the ship and the ocean in a painting. Mast is a word that has been used. It means a vertical spar for supporting sails. It's a kind of a pillar. And then comes the shrink. It means decrease in size. Now, paraphrasing. In class 8, you people are supposed to do paraphrasing. I know it's a new thing for you. In class 6 and class 7, you were not familiar with the word paraphrasing. So, let me tell you what is meant by paraphrase. Paraphrasing is presenting ideas and information in your own words and acknowledging where they came from. By using your own words, you demonstrate your understanding and your ability to convey this information. So you have to summarize actually the stanza in your own words, and you also have to tell that where those lines have been taken from. Now, I'll tell you what is the format of writing a stanza, because writing a paraphrasing, because you have to do the paraphrasing as your written task. Now, first you're going to write down the stanza that has been given to you. For example, here stanza number 1. All in a hot and copper sky, the blood run at noon, the bloody sun at noon. Right above the mast did stand, no bigger than the moon. Now, these are the stanzas, and after that, you're going to write down the reference. Reference means that from where those lines have been taken from. So these lines have been taken from the poem On the Ocean, written by S.T. Coleridge. Now, usually the poem is the Rime of the Mariner, but in your textbook, as the topic name is on the ocean, so you're going to label it as an ocean, as the ocean. And in the next heading, the third heading is about the paraphrasing, and then you have to do the paraphrasing. Now I'll tell you how will you do the paraphrasing. Now this is the whole poem which I would like to read for you. All in a hot and copper sky, the bloody sun at noon right up above the mast did stand, no bigger than the moon. Day after day, day after day, we stuck, nor breath, nor motion, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Water, water, everywhere, in all the boats did shrink. Water, water, everywhere, nor any drop to drink. So, stanza number 1 that I have already given you. Now, in that stanza, on one side we have the lines of the stanza, and on the other side is the paraphrasing. Now, the stanza 1 is all in a hot and copper sky, the bloody sun at noon, right above the mast did stand, no bigger than the moon. Now, here, the paraphrasing will be the ship stood still on the ocean. The sun was at its climax at noon and looked like a bloody sun above the mast. Being above the mast, it was not bigger than the moon. Okay, it means that the ship it was standing on the ocean, and when we looked at the sky, it was very hot, and the color of the sky was copper, and the sun it looks like uh, blood in color. It means it was red in color, and we can see the sun which was looking red in color on the sky. And when we look above at the mast means pillars where the sails were being placed. So when we look up, we can say, we can even make a comparison that the sun was so closer to the ship that it was really looking like a moon, that it was no bigger than the moon. Or we can paraphrase them like the bloody red sun stood up right above the head in the hot and copper like sky. It looked no bigger than the moon. Now, here you can see that the paraphrasing is to the point. You are not supposed to write down your own ideas in it or your own um, uh, point of views in it, your own opinions in it. You have to just summarize the lines into simple words. Now, stanza two. Day after day, we stuck nor breeze nor motion, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. So, the narrator of the story narrates that the sailors were become weary after every day. They became weak. Due to weakness, they were too weak to speak and breathe. They could not move. The sailors became as motionless and still as the ship and the ocean in the painting. Or we can paraphrase it as day after day they were stuck up there. They couldn't breathe nor move. This ship looked as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Okay. So stanza number three is water, water everywhere. In all the boats did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. Well, we can paraphrase it as the narrator of the story narrates that there was water everywhere as the ship stood motionless in the water. It affected all the boards of the ship and they shrank. There was water everywhere, but not a single drop for thirsty sailors as the sea water was salty. Or we can paraphrase it as there was water everywhere, all the boats shrank, there was no drop of water to drink. Now let's come to the exercise that you have to do. Now, question number one that you have to do that is on page number 16. You have to do all the parts. The first part is answer the following questions. First question, write the main idea of the poem. Question number two, define the bloody sun. Three, why everything was stuck. Four, why do you understand by painted ocean? Number five, explain the last stanza in your own words. Number six, paraphrase all the three stanzas with reference to context as I have given you the format. And there is part B, underline the words in the poem which rhymes with these. Now you have to do B part on your book. And number F is write a summary of the poem on the ocean. You have to do this work on your pages or on your register. Now let's recap. On the ocean, we had discussed about the introduction, that who was the poet. It was Coleridge, and the background was that the poem was taken. Actually, it's an extract and it's taken from the Rhyme of the Mariner. It consists of three stanzas. It's one of the influential poem of the English language. It's a story about a mariner, a old sailor who uh, shares his curse, his bad journey with one of the wedding guests. Then we have, I've discussed about the background of the poem, the background of the poet. Then the central idea. The central idea is about the hardship and the difficulties that the sailors had to face during their sea voyage. And then we have discussed about the paraphrasing, that the paraphrasing is all about giving your ideas in simple words, but it should be related to the lines, not your subjective ideas. And you have to tell about the lines from where it has been taken. First, it's the stanza, then it's the reference to context, and then it's the paraphrasing into simple words. And we have also discussed about the vocabulary list. Thank you so much.